Hi, everyone. Lynette and I started seeing each other when we were in college. We were both dating psychology and met in our abnormal psych class. She was this tall glass of water with blonde hair, and she had this cute little nose and little dimples on her face that I couldn't get enough of. And she was smart. Like mad smart. We had study group with a bunch of people who were taking the same classes as us, and I ended up asking her out, and that was that. Turns out we were both in the same dorms, and we tried our best to focus on our education while we were there because we both had to pay our own way and couldn't risk the going to waste. Lynette had 3 other sisters, and her father had passed away when she was 11. Her mom, Christina, never remarried, but she did very well for herself. She started up this nail salon, and it ended up growing into this really popular spa, and it became quite successful. She ended up opening up a bunch of them around the city and eventually expanded outside to other cities. Lynette is the oldest of the 4 girls at 27. Her youngest sister just turned 20. Her mom had kids young at 17, so she's 44. And I'm not going to lie, Christina is a babe. Like, she really worked hard in every aspect of her life. She stayed healthy, she took care of her body, and she stuck to a really strict regime. She actually sort of reminds me of Heidi Klum. And Lynette is quite gorgeous herself. She definitely gets it from her mother. Anyways, this is all to say that I found out Lynette was cheating on me with her teacher. Lynette is taking her master's in psychology. And me being the idiot, I had agreed to pay for her master's because I was doing well for myself. Long story short, I ended up getting lucky and took a research position at a university right out of university. Here, I was able to complete my master's while working. I landed a professorship soon after that. Lynette took a bit longer to finish her psych degree and then took a few years off to help her mom at her business. She tried to switch gears a bit and tried to take a massage therapy course, but then she didn't end up liking that. But because I was working steady and we didn't really have to worry about money, I told her just to take her time, and she ended up traveling with a GF to Europe. She wasn't cheating on me at this point. I actually surprised her while they were in Paris, and I got her friend to meet me at a certain point by the Eiffel Tower to propose to her, and I made it all romantic and shit, and it was beautiful. She said yes, and we traveled France together and then came home. France was their last pit stop, so it worked out really nicely for all of us. Well, then she thought of going back to school to take her master's. And I said that she should go for it, and I'll fully support her, and I'll even pay for it. Well, she was over the moon, and at first she didn't accept my offer because she didn't want me to feel obligated to help, and she said I didn't have to, and I said I wanted to. I told her that since I was able to, why not? So yeah, she ended up enrolling and starting her master's. Not gonna lie, she had a really hard time in the first year. Like, she kept talking about quitting and that she wasn't cut out for it, and it was too hard, and I sort of tried to be supportive in those moments while also giving her tough love kind of deal. I mean, I was paying for it because I believed in her and that she could do it, but I also didn't want that money just going to waste, you know? Then in the second year she started to find this newfound passion for everything, and almost like she had this second wind. I was all for it. I was like, yes, you can do this. Awesome. She was getting good grades, acing everything. She was even being asked to take on extra projects. People were contacting her for help on their stuff. All seemed good. One of these classes was online, and it happened to be a nighttime class. And what I didn't know at the time was that it was a nighttime class because the professor was located in Scotland. Apparently he was this world-renowned psychologist that was at the University of Edinburgh. It was a 3-hour thesis class once a week. And it started at 6 p.m. It was supposed to last until 9 p.m., but then she ended up staying up until midnight most days because she would talk to the professor about the assignments that he had assigned. But what I also didn't know at the time was that they were actually up on webcam together on Trello, and they'd be basically having online segs together, and she was taking her clothes off on cam and doing things to herself in front of him. Yeah, this did boost her grades. But no wonder. So it all kind of started when she had said she wanted to go to Scotland for reading week. She said there was a bunch of people from her thesis course that were going for research purposes because there was conference going on. And I was like, oh, strange, I didn't hear about any conference. With my profession, I hear about conferences all over, and I didn't actually hear about anything in Scotland, so I ended up catching her in a lie there. Then she comes back, gives me some half-assed explanation, and she's like, oh, sorry, I misunderstood what my class was saying. It's not actually a conference, but they are going to meet with students from the University of Edinburgh because there's a bunch of research going on there that students in her class, including her, were working on, and they wanted to exchange information and collab. I looked at her sort of like, okay. And she's like, it's just for a week. And she kinda looked at me like, pretty please, and I'm like, oh wait, you want me to pay for this? And she's like, I'll pay you back. And I'm like, how important is this trip for your thesis? And she's like, it's basically whether I pass or fail. And yes, in hindsight, her telling me that it was basically a pass or fail wasn't a lie. I'll get to this later. Anyways, then she started to have a panic attack because I didn't say yes right away to paying for her trip. And yeah, you can get at me for enabling her, but I ended up caving. I said, hey, why don't we make a thing of it and I can go with you? And then she said, I'll be so busy with school there. I'm not really going for fun. I'm going there to do research, Stephen. And I'm not going to lie. That crushed me. I didn't want to start a fight and stress her out though. Little did I know that she was actually going to Scotland by herself to meet up with this professor to bag him. So I know some of you are going to ask about this too. So Lynette used to work at her mom's spa doing admin and running the books. She paid her own way through school because her mom basically told her that she wasn't going to be paying for her school or any of the girls, and it was a way for her to teach her girls hard financial lessons and really get them to go to school for what they wanted. But it seems that once Lynette knew that I was going to stick around, and as soon as I had said that I was going to pay for her schooling, she very much took advantage of that and therefore didn't have to work for much since it wasn't her own money. Since it was my money, she could kind of just fluff it about. But I did see her grades in all of her courses except for her thesis course, OBS, because you don't get a grade for your thesis until the end of your thesis. But it was sort of a big deal. It quite literally can make or break your grade. Reading week came and she went to Scotland. She messaged me every day when she woke up and once at dinner and then once before she was going to bed. We'd video chat or send snaps to one another. I didn't really question anything, I just tried not to bother her. But whenever I did ask what she was doing, she wouldn't really give me the details. She'd just say that her and her friends were going out with the professor there and talk research over dinner or something along those lines. I thought it was strange that the professor was sort of crossing a professional boundary by taking his students out, and when I said that was sort of strange, she snapped back and said it was a normal thing for profs to do there. And then she never mentioned the professor again. I'd quote it was, but while she was in Scotland, I just had this urge to really find out what was going on. So in that moment, I went onto the shared computer that she took her classes on and reviewed the log for the webcam. I saw that she was talking to the same professor and I managed to get the name, and then that's when I looked him up. It was this handsome studly guy who lived in Scotland. And I never remembered if Lynette had told me a name or not, but then I saw a list of places he was teaching at and saw that it was, in fact, Lynette's school, and he taught a bunch of classes that she would have taken. There it was. After that, I had to be extra sure. So I go into the web history and I go to the forum that she takes her classes in, and because the passwords are saved on the computer, I was able to get in. I'm searching through these forums to see if this research BS was actually true and that students from her class were actually planning on going for educational purposes. I saw nothing. No mention of the sort. But then I see DMs from her professor and it's giving her information for this Trello account and telling her to contact him over there. So then I go into the web history again and look up Trello, manage to log in with saved passwords, and then I see their whole conversationally history of Essing and all that jazz. I even found videos that she had tried to save in some hidden folder of her taking her clothes off on webcam. They were basically hooking up over the interweb. Then I see a back and forth about her going to Scotland and his address and where to go and what he plans to do to her and her planning on taking it and you name it. So then I go on to change all of her passwords on everything so that only I know what they are. And to be honest, I just changed them to a bunch of random letters and symbols. Then I go onto her email and change the password on her email, and because we've been together for so long, she made me her second step authentication, so the password change went directly to me, and of course I accepted the password update. I went back to her school webpage and withdrew her from all of her classes. Then I went back and moved all of the money that was in our joint account to my joint savings. And I know she would have seen that because we get notified when money gets moved out of the account for billing purposes. Then I sat and waited for her to reach out to me. Waiting. Nothing. Meanwhile, I'm taking screenshots and saving emails and literally saving everything I can to send to the appropriate people. Then I send all of those screenshots to her mother and her sisters and to all of our friends. Her mom calls me and she's asking me what's going on, and I tell her exactly what I saw, and I'm reading these messages word for word to her. She's like, I'm coming over. So within minutes she's at the door and she's asking me if I'm okay, and she's asking if I told Lynette that I know everything, and I'm like yes, and yes. I actually felt much better than I would have thought. Maybe it was shock. And then we're sitting on the couch and she's talking to me and really trying to get at where all things went wrong, and she just kept saying how sorry she was and how ashamed she was. And honestly, I'm not even ashamed to admit that one thing led to another, and Christina and I hooked up right there on the couch. It was glorious. It was actually the best I've ever had. And it wasn't even awkward after, it was like, cool. She just sort of got up and said that she'd be in touch and how sorry she was again, and she said she'd let me know if Lynette reached out to her. After that, I slept like a baby. But I woke up in the morning with just over 30 text messages and phone calls. Honestly, I wanted to call our cell phone provider to cancel that number and get it cut off. Lynette texted me saying what the hell I was doing and saying that I totally flew off the handle and I have no basis for moving the money and telling her family and friends. She even claimed that I had forged the apparent evidence and that I was a bold-faced liar who just wanted me out of her life. And she said if I wanted her out of my life that I should have just left her and divorced her. And now she's stranded in a different country. Obviously not, but I knew what she was trying to do. She was trying to create a certain storyline over text because she knew she was in deep. I had the passwords. I had the evidence. I had the upper hand. She had nothing. I even considered calling the airline and waiting on hold for 10 or so hours just to cancel the ticket, but I didn't. I simply texted her that I spoke to her mother and her mother was going to pick up all of her stuff and take it to one of her sister's place and that she should reach out directly to her mother, and that was that. So then after about a half hour I get a call from Christina and she tells me that Lynette reached out to her and was unconsolable and tried to tell her that I left her high and dry in Scotland and she doesn't know what to do or how to get home. She said Lynette told her that she was legit doing research and is just trying to create a good life for us. Well, clearly she hasn't noticed that I withdrew her from all of her courses and I didn't tell Christina that I did that. So Christina comes over that night and she helps me pack up Lynette's stuff and just a few pieces of furniture and whatever I didn't want to keep, and her sister comes over to help haul it out of there. Christina ended up coming back and, well, you get the idea. We had a good time. Edit. Lynette tried to contact me here and there while she was still in Scotland, but I wasn't having it. I ignored her frantic messages and calls. It took her longer than I thought to realize she had been withdrawn from school, and all her hard work and my hard-earned money had gone up in smoke. Meanwhile, I had already contacted my divorce lawyer and got the ball rolling on that front. To add a deliciously ironic twist, I asked Christina, her mother, to serve her the divorce papers. Christina and I have been seeing each other ever since. We're really enjoying each other's company and each other's bodies. I have to say, life is pretty sweet right now. Christina's got a lot more experience and maturity, and it's a refreshing change from Lynette's drama. As for Lynette, she's living with one of her sisters now. I have no idea if she's still in touch with that guy from Scotland, but it doesn't really matter. She's left with nothing, no master's degree, no job, and no money. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Wife was acting suspicious, so later I caught her sleeping with her broke, jobless teammate in a parking lot. I filed for divorce, now she's couch surfing and crying, but I'm done. My wife, 28, and I, 35, got together about 8 years ago. We married 4 years into the relationship and I thought everything was great between us. Our love life was great and we were always being romantic. The two of us frequently went on dates and never neglected that part of our lives. Sometimes married people can fall into a slump, but I swear that wasn't us. Sure, we had the rare fight, but they were over within a few hours. We'd make up so fast that it was like we almost hadn't fought in the first place. When I described her to people, I would say she was the love of my life because I truly believed that she was. She was everything I ever wanted in a partner. Naturally, I thought she felt the same way because why wouldn't I? My wife never gave me any indication that there was a problem in our relationship. People tend to say that they saw signs or cracks along the way, but I swear I saw nothing. Everything did seem almost perfect. After my wife joined a volleyball club in February, things started to change. I didn't bat an eyelash at first. She had played it in high school and wanted to pick it up again. Twice a week, for 3 hours, she'd go down to the center to practice. During that time I missed her, but if she wanted to do this then I was more than happy to support her. She always supported me in my hobbies, so there was no reason why I wouldn't do the same. I think the moment I realized something was wrong was when she began to hide her smartphone from me. She never did that before. We never had secrets from each other and had no problem with the other using each other's phones. So, when she went to the bathroom in the evening and forgot to take it with her, I checked the phone. What I found was a punch in the gut. In a conversation with a teammate, I found many messages. When I confronted her, she grabbed the phone and deleted the text. My wife cried that it meant nothing. They had gone for several walks over the months and kept spending time together, but it was nothing. He did try to kiss her once but she rebuffed him. They were just friends, but she realized that she had done wrong by seemingly encouraging the relationship with him. My wife begged me for a chance and to trust that nothing happened. Silly me was still deep in the fog, so I agreed to forgive her that night. Even though I agreed to forgive her, it was difficult. I'd constantly ask my wife where she was, what she was doing, and who she was with. I even began to track her Google data where I found a couple of 15-minute stops near a tire store. For some time, she had been stopping there after work and then driving home. I started to realize something was up after she was an hour late for an appointment. So I did the only thing I could think of. I followed her one day. What I found was her in his car, and the second she saw me, she jumped out of the car. She said that the only reason she met with the guy was to tell him to leave it alone. This made no sense to me. Why would you go through all that effort to meet him in public? You could tell him that over text or phone call. Naturally, I thought she was full of crap, so I called the guy and confronted him. It was there I learned that this guy, who still lived with his parents mind you, had been meeting with my wife for weeks. They claimed it was nothing sexual. All they would do is meet at the tire shop, talk, and then go their separate ways. Once again, she tried to claim that it was a mistake and she loved it. It means nothing is her favorite thing to say. My wife has said she will do whatever it takes to repair our relationship, but if this was the case, then why is she still in volleyball where she continues to see this guy multiple times a week? It was at that point I started to come out of the fog. Once I began to confront her, the truth came out. The two of them did have sex, and not only that, they did it right in the parking lot. For weeks she had been lying to my face and sleeping with this guy almost every day. Truly, I had been naive to think that nothing intimate was going on between them. Of course, she would try to lie and say it was not physical. If I knew it was physical from the beginning, I never would have even thought of giving her another chance because that is just a line you don't cross in my book. I think realizing that she sees him every day and continues to lie to my face is what helped me realize I needed to start the divorce process. This caught her off guard because she didn't think I'd have the guts to push for a divorce and finally leave her. Tears came, but I remained strong. My wife's tears weren't going to have any sway this time. She was going to have to face the consequences for what she had done to not just me but also used as a whole. No longer could she have the best of both worlds. Once I filed for divorce, she ended up moving out of our shared property and into Airbnb apartments for the most part. Her app is an unemployed driver who still lives with his parents who will not allow her to live there, so she had no choice but to seek temporary housing arrangements. She is a teacher, so her income isn't the greatest. I don't know what she will do when she runs out of money to afford these temporary housing arrangements. However, now that we are close to a divorce, I realize that it is not my problem. Maybe she'll manage to land on her feet, or maybe she won't. I just need to realize it's something I do not have to or need to worry about. Let her app worry about it since he's so amazing. A lot of her things are still in our shared home. Even now, she'll try to say that there is no life without you and she wants to get back together. Months ago this would have swayed me, but now I just gray rock. Her words do little to sway me. I see how frustrated she gets when I don't have a reaction, and honestly, it feels good. I've managed to pick up the pieces and have filled my life with friends, sports, and hobbies, and am even considering furthering my education. Was it easy to pick up the pieces of my life after learning of my wife's affair? No, but I remained steadfast and determined to put myself first. Looking back, I still can't see many signs or pinpoint where it went wrong. I guess she was just good at hiding it. Either way, it doesn't matter because our relationship is done. She can remain with her unemployed app. Maybe his parents will finally take pity on her and let her stay. If they don't, then I can honestly say it's not my problem if she can't find a place to stay. She lost my sympathy when she decided to go outside our relationship and cheat on me. The moment she did that, she was undeserving of anything from me other than anger and resentment.